Hi, I'm Keith Rumpfer. I'm your Selecting Contract Manager for Charles County Environmental Resources. We have twice a year, we have a composting workshop that's open for Charles County residents in which they learn the process of composting, how to set up a composting bin. They are given a collapsible composting bin that they can take home along with some information to do it on their own backyards or front yards or wherever else that might be useful for them to have it at. Composting is the structured process by which you take organic matter, specifically food scraps, lawn waste that's small, and other organic materials, and you foster the decomposition of those materials. And what happens is that once the microbes and fungal break that material down, it then becomes a usable, a very rich and nutrient-dense usable amendment to your soil. You can use in your backyard, in a garden, flowering pots, whatever you would choose to do so. So composting is very important. The reason being is two things. Number one, you are saving landfill space, and you're also accessing a resource that's very viable. The first is landfill space. So our landfill has a finite amount of space. And statistically speaking, a lot of the space in landfills are actually used with organics. That means there's food scraps, also other kind of organic yard waste that takes up space. Once that starts decomposing, that produces a lot of methane, which is a greenhouse gas. So we are conserving a lot of landfill space and extending the life of landfill. The second thing is you're reusing a natural resource. So everything that's natural, organic, like this tree or grass I'm standing on, will die and decompose. And when it comes to decompose, you go that process again, you're releasing all those stored nutrients that are inside that organism. That then can be used by new organisms, such as your grass, your garden, flowers, vegetables, etc. So by harnessing that natural process and taking those old things that you don't want anymore, allowing nature to decompose those, you get that in return a great soil amendment. If you'd like more information on composting in Charles County, please visit our website at www.charlescountymd.gov/outreach.
Applying for jobs with Charles County government is now easier and more efficient. Visit www.charlescountymd.gov for more information.
So as long as I can remember, as tall as big enough to get onto a boat, my dad's taking me fishing and oystering and crabbing. My family's pretty extensive down here, the older generations. Again, obviously I was born and raised down here. My grandfather and grandparents, they were watermen way back in the day. So it's somewhat of a heritage, it's somewhat of a family tradition as far as the water business down in this particular area of Charles County, down in here in Cobb Island area. My name is Bill Kilinski. I'm president of the Charles County Watermen's Association. Born and raised here on Cobb Island all my life, 50 plus years. And I'm also a commercial waterman, a commercial fisherman. I'm more emphasized now in my primary work is oyster business, is the oyster fishery. I grow my own oysters. I harvest oysters during the wild fishery season from the state of Maryland. But down in this particular area, we've got an abundance of crabs at times, blue crabs. The catfish industry, the catfish market has really exploded over the past 5 to 10 years. It started about 10 years ago, but now it seems like there's more people getting involved into the commercial catfishing. Striped bass, we still have a small commercial fishery to be able to harvest striped bass. And those are primarily the bigger species that we target here in the Cobb Island area, in the Potomac and the Wicomico here in Charles County. There's many challenges. For one thing, it's pretty difficult for a younger person or a person of interest to come into this field, to come into this industry, because it's so expensive. This is my boat here. This has always been my dream boat. This boat right now is probably anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 just for the boat alone. If they have an interest, whoever might be interested going into the crabbing business, to crab pots or to trot line or whatever type of gear we're talking about, that could be anywhere from another to $20,000 to $50,000 as far as gearing out. And that is a huge amount of money to invest as far as going into a specific type of fishery here in the commercial industry. Oystering has always kind of been an art. People think they can kind of just hop on the boat and go in here and catch oysters, but there's a little bit more to it. It takes years to develop the techniques and years to kind of master to be a really good oysterman. And just the day-to-day operation, we're dealing with Mother Nature as far as the weather. We're dealing with the water quality as far as that's going to impact your harvest and such. It's pretty difficult to be a waterman these days, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there's other things that I'm quite not recalling that are out there that are going to impact us in one way or the other. So a positive, if we look at the history here in Cobb Island, at one time there was 100 boats. I'm referring to the oyster industry, 100 boats, and just the activity that went out of here back in the day. There's a lot that's going on. It's a way of life. I mean, I've always done it all my life. It's when you get on this boat by yourself or with your family or another person, and I mean, just the reward from that. It's hard work. If I don't leave the dock, if I don't go to work, then I don't get paid. People don't get fed because we are providing a food source, you know, the seafood business, for people to consume and such. So there's a lot more rewards that I'm probably not thinking of right now, but it's a good way of life. It's been a good history, heritage, as far as generation from generation, and just not me, but the local watermen as well. This goes back way back when here in the Cobb Island region and Lower Charles County as far as people working the waters. So I can remember back to the early 80s, the late 70s, and again, there was many boats that traveled out of here to go to work. This is the only oyster boat that's coming out of Cobb Island right now. So from the 80s to where we're at today, from 100 boats down to one boat, that is a tremendous amount of change that has occurred specific to the oyster fishery. The water quality, the erosion is enormous. That I can't absorb the amount of erosion and the loss of land that has occurred in this area that I go by every day. And I can remember as a kid that there was land that stuck out another 100, 200, 300 feet, but now it's washed away in the river systems and such. And that's bad because that mud, that sediment, that soil is going to our oyster reefs, and they're slowly burying our oyster reefs. And an oyster reef, in order for it to thrive, in order for it to be productive, it has to be clean. It has to have a clean, viable shell down there for that oyster to thrive on, and it's not happening. That's somewhat of the topics, I guess, as far as some of the stuff that I'm seeing. So one thing that I did find out here in Charles County alone is 247 people, residents in Maryland, that hold commercial licenses. So, which might not seem like a whole lot, but compared to other counties, other areas within the state of Maryland, but there's that much activity that is taking place here in Charles County. So I would tell people to buy local because we're supporting the local community here. The seafood is fresh, it's caught daily, it tastes better. And again, we're just supporting the local community. I mean, there's 3 major restaurants that are down here that there's quite a few people that are employed with these restaurants, and it's a good quality seafood. It's a fresh seafood, and plus we're also supporting the watermen when we buy local. So yes, I encourage you to support your local watermen and to buy local seafood here in Charles County.